What is going on, everybody? It's KB. Before the episode starts, make sure you go check out StreamerSZN's brand new theme music. That's right. We have full-time, brand new theme music thanks to the newest homie and newest member of the music side of Underground Sports Philadelphia homies. That is Mobley. Stay Volk. His new single is out now. It is linked in the description on YouTube, and you'll be hearing it on audio until we can figure out if we can play it on video on StreamerSZN episodes from here on out. That's our new theme music. Stay Volk. Go download it now wherever you get your music, and go check out the music video on YouTube. But now, let's get into the episode of StreamerSZN.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
What's up, guys? It's KB. Welcome to another edition of StreamerSZN. Scheduling has been crazy between Christian's new day job and everything he's got going on with the athletic department at the school he's working at, along with me dealing with working on a musical, going to Champ Series for the PLL, and a whole bunch more. So schedule's been kind of wonky. There was supposed to be more on this episode. It's just going to be a full-fledged Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man breakdown of episodes 3 through 8. So 5-episode breakdown. And then we will be back to our regular scheduled programming with myself and Harrison on next week's episode, wrapping up Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and doing a big old Daredevil preview to get ready for Daredevil Born Again, as well as your typical news and notes segment. But thank you guys for tuning in. Before we get into the breakdown, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at StreamerSZN and StreamerSZN Pod on TikTok. Subscribe to the pod on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts in audio form. Leave us a 5-star review. It really does go a long way for helping this show continue to grow and helps more people find all of our shows here at Underground Sports Philadelphia. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show, full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. It's all on our YouTube channel. Leave a like on the video, drop a comment in the comment section, and click that bell icon so you know whenever new videos go live. Without any further ado, I'm going to kick it to myself and Harrison, and we are going to break down a big old chunk of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So sit tight, and I'll be right back to close out the episode for you guys. Flip, 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 flip. Welcome on in, Spidey fans, to a Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man extravaganza segment here on StreamerSZN. I know we missed doing an episode last week because of all of the Super Bowl amenities that had to go down. But our first 2-episode breakdowns are on the most recent episode that dropped. By the time you're listening to this, it'll be out. So definitely go check that out. But we are going to break down episodes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 on this episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which actually kind of works out because it's a good length of time to kind of sift through all of this. And then, you know, it's not breaking down multiple 20-minute episodes for about a month. Like, feel good about doing a big old episode here. But before we get into everything, this segment brought to you by our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company. Guys, the Birds just won the big game. There's no better place to go and get your big game merch than with our friends at PHI Apparel Company. With their unique designs for all, there's no doubt in our minds you'll stand out in the crowd. Go to phiapparel.co, and when you go to checkout, use code UNDERGROUND, and you'll get 10% off your next merch order. Get Big Game Champions merch. Get StreamerSZN merch. The whole 9 yards. Every single Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast has merch at PHI Apparel Company. We got some new designs in the works that we're going to be sending over too. So definitely go check it out. Get your big game merch from the best in the biz, PHI Apparel Company, phiapparel.co. Use code UNDERGROUND for 10% off your next merch order. Harrison, we got a lot to dive into. A lot of villains of the week, if you will, to get into. We've got a lot of episodes. But overall, from where we left off with the initial 2-episode premiere to episodes 3, 4, and 5 kind of being a conglomerate, and then 6, 7, and 8 being a conglomerate, how are we feeling about the flow and the plot building and just the overall world building of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man 8 episodes in?
So after the first 2 episodes, I was unsure how they were going to take care of the Lonnie Lincoln character, if they were going to truly take him down the Tombstone path. And now we know for a fact that that is what they are doing. I think they're doing a phenomenal job at it. It's been a great character arc for him, going from someone who really does care about the people in his lives almost too much to a point. He wants to be there to support everybody and protect everybody, that it's going to take him down the dark roads, much like Peter wants to protect and support everybody, but he's doing it from the heroic standpoint. Lonnie's doing it from the underworld standpoint. And it's just been a very fun show so far. I love the dynamic that Pete has with the Osborns and Nico. We haven't seen too much of Aunt May. I think they're going to save more of her for the final 2 episodes. And I saw people like shitting on the design of the show, but man, I love it. I love it. It's very comic booky, and I'm having a whole bunch of fun with it.
Yeah, it's animation. There's more free will and just risks that you can take that even if they don't necessarily resonate at first, they pay off in the grand scheme of what you're able to accomplish versus live action. Not that this show was ever curated for live action, but you're able to accomplish a bit more and be like a little more creatively free with this type of animation style. So I 100% agree. I think it's fantastic. But we got 5 episodes to dive through, and if you're new to the show, we will not be doing an overall rating for each episode. We're saving our overall show rating for the end on a show like this. That's kind of the path we're going to take with shows like this moving forward, whether it be like this, something like an X-Men 97, What If, which we still have to do season 3 of, obviously, on this show. But things like this, where they're shorter, bite-sized type of episodes, it's going to be more so let's dive into the entirety of the season rather than episode by episode. It just makes more sense that way. So here we go. We'll get into episode 3, Secret Identity Crisis, Stu Livingston, Jeff Trammell. Peter attempts to deny that he is Spider-Man, but Norman not convinced. He invites Peter to a private dinner where he explains that he became intent on discovering Spider-Man's true identity following the rescue of his son, Harry. Norman created the internship project as a pretense to assemble Jean, Aisha, Amadeus, and Peter, the most likely candidates for young people who could have created Spider-Man's technology. Peter turns down Norman's offer of partnership, but continues the internship to help May pay her bills. And when Lonnie's younger brother, Andre, joins the local 110th Street gang, Lonnie goes to the gang's headquarters to retrieve Andre. The gang's leader, Big Donovan, aka Big Don, forces him to join the gang in return for allowing Andre to leave. Criminals Maria Vasquez and James Sanders obtain high-tech gloves and boots from a mysterious benefactor and rob a jewelry shop. Peter fights them and is outmaneuvered by their technology until Norman contacts him to assist via hijacking the Spider-Man technology. After defeating the couple, Peter notices the same Infinity logo on their technology, and Peter accepts Norman's partnership offer. Your thoughts on this episode, the introductions of, James Sanders and Maria Vasquez is kind of your villains of the week, if you will. And obviously the 110th Street gang kind of being a subplot to what's going on while all of this is occurring at the same time.
It was a fun episode. I loved how Pete and Norman bounced off each other at the beginning of the episode with him like, no, I'm not Spider-Man. I just know a guy who knows a guy who's like helps me make the stuff for Spider-Man. Or well, it was like, no, what was the line he said? It was something along the lines of your camera must have glitched out, or
Yeah.
And then Norman goes, you could have just told me you make the equipment for Spider-Man, and that would have been more believable. And he's like, dang it. Yeah, I'm Spider-Man. You got me. You got me.
I
Well,
also find it funny that like Norman is like kind of fulfilling the roles of so many characters we know
yeah,
of Spider-Man in like television and movies where like he's trying to find Spider-Man. It's very like J. Jonah Jameson's been trying to find Spider-Man. So it's very funny how he's filling multiple roles
wants
in
to
this
mentor
show.
Spider-Man like Iron Man in the MCU. In an episode later down the line that we're going to talk about, he fills an Uncle Ben role.
Mhm.
Like he's just playing so many roles, and it's going to be interesting to see where he settles. Because I still think this is building to the Green Goblin, as we saw something in a later episode that we'll get to that hints pretty heavily that the Goblin is going to be in effect.
I did find it interesting that they introduced like not that they're like little known, but like lesser known characters
Yeah,
in Maria Vasquez and James Sanders. Maria being the tarantula, James being known as a member of the Squadron Sinister, known as the Wizard,
yeah.
um, also known as Speed Demon as well in a few comics. So I thought
I
that was fascinating that they brought in like
yeah.
lesser known villains to kind of be the villain of the week role.
And they're building up for like the more well-known villains later down the line. Tombstone's going to come into play. I don't know if he'll be an enemy or ally to Spider-Man in the future because this Lonnie Lincoln has a very good heart,
Mm-hmm.
just not this brightest head on his shoulders right now.
Yeah.
Scorpion is going to be a deadly foe. This Scorpion, we'll get into him later, but good lord, this is a
He's
great take
insane.
on the character. Great take on the character.
Yeah. This episode was fun.
Yeah,
I think it was in the line. I almost wish they would have put this episode out with the first two.
yeah, it felt like this
It
should.
felt like the continuation of
Yeah,
episode 2 almost, and kinda like an ending of a trilogy episode run.
yeah.
But I'm not mad about it. It's just one of those things that I noticed, like, as I was watching, I was like, "Oh, this kind of flows with the first 2 episodes." I wish
I,
they
I
would have put
really,
this out together.
I really think they should have done a 3-3-3-1 in terms of
Mhm.
release schedule, because then you have this big climactic final episode that I think
Yeah.
they're really building to. And as we'll talk about later, the episode that they ended on this week, massive cliffhanger. So I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like next week will be the payoff. But if they had done a 3-3-3-1, that payoff would have happened, and then we'd all be aching with anticipation for this final episode next week.
Which brings us to episode 4, Hitting the Big Time. Liza Singer, Charlie Nooner. Here's when we get the Avengers
You get the Avengers.
becoming fractured over the Sokovia Accords,
Not the
uh,
Sokovia Accords again.
which, if I'm not mistaken, second time post Endgame that we've gotten mention of the Sokovia Accords in any Marvel property. We got it mentioned, obviously, in She-Hulk when She-Hulk and Daredevil are in court. That was the first time. This the second time in any Marvel entity that we've gotten mention of the Sokovia Accords again since Civil War, which is pretty fascinating, I'd say. Um, and yes, I know this is happening in a different timeline than the main 616 timeline, but it's still fascinating that, in any Marvel property, only the second time post Civil War we've gotten mention of the Accords. So they're fractured over the Sokovia Accords, a legislative act requiring superheroes to be registered and overseen. Norman believes he and Peter must step up to become the protectors of New York, and has Peter try on various new Oscorp design superhero suits. These yield mixed results until they settle on a suit closer to Peter's original Spider-Man design, though it is mostly white, rather than the red and blue costume that Peter imagined. Harrison, your thoughts on the white suit Spidey?
So my first thought when I saw this in the trailers was, are they bringing in the Fantastic Four a little bit early? Because it was very reminiscent of the Future Foundation suit that Spidey wore while filling in for Human Torch while the Torch was presumed dead.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I like it. It's very Oscorp,
Mm.
very Oscorp. It it's functional. It's very functional, but it doesn't give off the vibes of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, as the title card says. This is a hero, no doubt, but it looks more sinister than anything, in my opinion. The color adds to the love of Spider-Man. Like, I want to go,
Now,
yeah,
I was gonna say, hear me out, because you bring up the Fantastic Four. Obviously, we got the Fantastic Four trailer
yeah,
recently. We don't know what timeline
exactly.
Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is in, and we don't know what timeline the Fantastic Four live action film is in.
Yes.
Could they be the same timeline?
Now, it's interesting you say that, because I want to talk about the Fantastic Four trailer for a second and why I don't think that's the same timeline.
Okay.
I think that Galactus is going to eat the timeline, or the Earth in the timeline that the Fantastic Four are in. I think they lose in the movie, and Wong or Doctor Strange will show up right before Galactus devours the Earth, and it's like, "Hey, we know you guys failed, but you can help save another Earth. Come with me." And that's going to lead into Secret Wars and all that good stuff. And that's how we get the Fantastic Four in the main universe timeline. But we haven't seen any mention of a Baxter building or anything along the lines of the Fantastic Four. So I have to assume this timeline is more similar to the main MCU timeline, which I'm going to call 6160. I refuse to call it 616. It is 6160. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It does feel like a very similar Earth, considering, Sokovia Accords, a later mention of Captain America on the run down the line, all that good stuff. And I don't know. I'm interested to see if the Fantastic Four are alive in this universe, and whether Johnny and Peter are going to be friends or not, because that is such a huge part of the comics that needs to be in the MCU. I need to see a Human Torch and Spider-Man doing dumb shit as friends. Like,
Now, the
yes,
reason I bring up that they could be a similar timeline is because of that, and I think it is one of your few ways to incorporate Tom Holland's Spider-Man, or a version of Tom Holland's Spider-Man, in the live action Fantastic Four. Because
yeah,
obviously we know this Fantastic Four is going to show up in Secret Wars, in Avengers Doomsday. It's confirmed. So I'm
yeah.
curious on like their approach to that,
So
or if Tom Holland's Spider-Man is just going to be introduced to that Fantastic Four in one of those movies. It's fascinating. It's interesting, simply from the fact that we don't know what timeline either that film or this show are in.
so what I'm hoping, from the end, the post-credit scene of this Fantastic Four movie, right? Well, my guess is that Galactus eats the Earth, and the ending of the movie is the Fantastic Four arriving at Avengers Tower in 6160 and turning that into the Baxter building that they know, so that they can really start getting acclimated on their new Earth. And what I'm hoping is that the post-credit scene of the movie is Johnny Storm flying around Manhattan or Queens or just New York in general, and Spider-Man thinks, "Oh, look, a villain I can go beat up on." And they're just like, he's swinging next to him while he's flying, like, "Who the hell are you?" "I'm Human Torch." "Who the hell are you?" "I'm Spider-Man." "Who the hell is Spider-Man?" Something like that.
Yeah,
Because their dynamic is very buddy cop, and it's just the best. It's the best.
it's going to be fascinating how they kind of like navigate that.
Yes.
But definitely something to bring to the forefront there. Um, but obviously we get the white suit Spider-Man. Um, Big Donovan, not to be confused with Big Dom, Super Bowl champ,
Eyes on.
uh, sends Lonnie to get food for the 110th Street Gang from a store that is in the territory of a rival gang, the Scorpions. Lonnie is threatened by some of the Scorpions, and when he returns, Big Donovan explains that Lonnie and his family will only be saved from the Scorpions if Lonnie is loyal to the 110th Street. Peter rescues some bystanders from a group of Russian bank robbers, and when he returns to Oscorp, he accidentally reveals his identity to Harry. One of the Russians Mila Masaryk escapes with the money they stole and takes it to the benefactor that is creating high-tech gear for various criminals, Otto Octavius.
Dun dun dun.
I found this episode fascinating. They also dropped the Tracksuit Mafia name drop in this episode, which I also found fascinating because we've obviously gotten them in the live action continuity of the MCU.
We need Hawkeye season 2. We need Hawkeye season 2.
And just a lot of buildup, a lot of plot in this episode. I thought this episode was awesome.
I agree. I love that the mysterious benefactor is Doc Ock before the arms get welded to him.
Mhm.
I love the reveal at the end that Harry finds out that Peter's Spider-Man, because a lot of the things in the comics is that Harry does not know that Peter's Spider-Man for the early run, and then he eventually finds out after the death of his father and blames Pete for it. So we're gonna have to see how this plays out, because again, I do think the Goblin is going to come into play. But as of right now, it seems like Harry is going to be one of Pete's closest confidants when it comes to his double life.
You know how badly I want a animated version of the scene from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man when Green Goblin comes up to Spider-Man and smacks him on the head?
I kept seeing memes about Tom Brady this weekend going up to Mahomes and just being like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing? How you doing?"
Oh, it's so good. Very strong episode for episode 4. Very strong. Like probably one of the best we've gotten so far, in my opinion.
I agree. And there haven't been any weak episodes so far either, I think.
No.
They've all been good.
Yeah, I think they've all been like average to good.
Yes.
And I think so far episode 4 of the ones we've discussed obviously has been closer to like great than average.
Yes. I agree.
Which brings us to episode 5, The Unicorn Unleashed. Harrison, your overall thoughts before we dive into this episode on The Unicorn Unleashed.
I love the Unicorn because it's such a goofy name for a supervillain, but she's a menace. J. Jonah Jameson can talk about Spider-Man being a menace all he wants. That's the real menace right there.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
He took my fucking kidney.
No, I enjoyed this episode a lot too. I'm excited to see the subplot with all these Russian criminals.
Yeah.
We've got the Unicorn. One of them eventually becomes the Rhino, and one of them eventually becomes the Chameleon. And I want to see the Rhino in his costume so bad, but I don't think that'll happen this season.
Yeah. I also just think like with the Russian twist on everything and tracksuits getting dropped, the next Marvel show we get after this is Daredevil Born Again.
Yes.
So I'm curious if any, not saying it's exact plot line, but I'm wondering if any of it is parallel to this timeline that happens alongside Daredevil, because after this episode, we will get to the duel with the devil. But the Unicorn Unleashed. Octavius sells Mila a helmet that shoots light. I'm a firing my laser. The amount of YouTube 1.0 quotes we've gotten out of this episode already is insane.
That is something I have not thought about in years. 8-year-old me
videos.
8-year-old me watched that on repeat.
I'm a fire my laser.
Yeah. Oh God.
It's so funny.
Yeah, she was a fire in her laser.
Firing her lasers from the forehead, and can predict an opponent's movements out here like Alakazam in Pokemon Season 1 with Sabrina at her gym. He plans to make a name for himself by using the wealth he's been gaining from selling his technology to criminals. Norman decides that due to his busy schedule, it would be best for Harry to also be involved in the Spider-Man partnership. Mila, calling herself the Unicorn, helps her Russian cohorts escape prison. Harry directs Peter to stop them, and he fights the group. Mila nearly kills Peter, but is stopped by her accomplice, Mikhail Sitsevich, after Peter saved his life when Mila and Mikhail as bait during the fight. Peter apprehends them both, and Mikhail vows revenge for his imprisonment despite Peter's heroics.
Yep.
Peter joins Nico to watch a movie and invites Harry, a well-known socialite, to join them. Upsetting Nico, Lonnie is forced on the other side of things to leave football practice to help the 110th Street Gang in a turf war. What? A turf war with the Scorpions. And after saving Big Donovan from the Scorpions leader, Mac Gargan, Lonnie earns the respect of the gang, and Big Donovan gives him the moniker Tombstone.
So it didn't take us long to find out that they were indeed going down the Tombstone route with Lonnie, which is perfect. That is the exact thing the character needs, because Tombstone is one of Spider-Man's greatest adversaries, at least from the street level.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite things about these episodes, Spider-Man just keeps getting the shit beat out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And like, one thing Spider-Man fans want for Spider-Man is for him to be happy in his private life. But the man has to lose several times before he gets the win. And it's been just constant beat down after beat down after beat down. And he does get his lick back, but he usually comes off a lot worse for wear in most cases. So it's good to see that these writers understand that Pete needs to get the shit beat out of him more often than not.
Yeah. Overall take on this episode?
This is another fun one. I have not had a bad time watching the show. And not in the sense that it's bad, but you'll have fun watching it, like the 2005 Fantastic Four. I talked about this with you last week, because it's horrible, but it's phenomenal. Like, you will not have a bad time watching that movie. It's so mid-2000s that the nostalgia just creeps up on you and punches you in the face at every single turn. But this is a good show that is just genuinely fun to sit through and experience. And it's another enjoyable episode. Again, I love the Tombstone subplot. The plot of Doc Ock making these weapons for super criminals, and that Spider and Norman have to team up to stop him. It's ripped right out of a comic book.
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode a ton. Like, the twists and turns were great, and the action was phenomenal in this episode.
I think my favorite fight so far is the fight that we're going to get to in episode 6, with a certain other masked vigilante that we have all been looking forward to see again. Because that fight is just choreographed so well. The movements are fluid. You can tell it's an experienced brawler versus a kid who's way in over his head. And I'm interested to see how Pete's fighting mechanics are going to grow in these last 2 episodes here.
Yeah, so that brings us to the duel with the devil. Lonnie has kicked off the football team as he continues to skip both practice and school, but refuses to tell Pearl about his priorities to the 110th Street Gang. Peter invites both Harry and Nico to spend time with him at his home so his friend group could become closer, but their clashing personalities make it difficult. While Norman attends a charity dinner with Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, he learns that someone is breaking into Oscorp and has Peter go investigate. Spider-Man finds the culprit to be the vigilante Daredevil.
Yeah.
My king. My king.
Salute to our president.
Who believes Norman is hiding something sinister. Choice words there. The two fight.
Words.
What's that?
Very interesting choice of words.
Yes. The two fight, which ends with Daredevil knocking the piss out of Spider-Man. Once he returns, Norman reveals that he discovered his former associate Octavius is behind the tech for the super criminals and believes he hired Daredevil to steal from him. When Peter returns home, he finds Harry has told Nico he is Spider-Man, and after she claimed he does not hide secrets from her, and she storms out. Meanwhile, Lonnie evades Gargan's second in command, Carmilla Black, but she's able to track him to the 110th Street Gang's hideout as Octavius equips Gargan with a scorpion-like armor.
All right. Let's just dive into this here. The Daredevil fight was perfect. And I love the little misdirect at the end there with Norman Osborn going, "Oh, he must have been sent by Octavius." He wasn't sent by Octavius. What was Daredevil really looking into there? That's the question. What was he really looking into?
Well, I think we've got and I think we get it in the last episode talking about, is this behind the zoo? You've got the tarantula, you've got Doc Ock, you've got Scorpion, you've got all these animals. I think we're going like the zoo trend of the Sinister Six in this timeline.
And we do have a Dr. Connors.
Yes, we do. That's also true.
She has been a major support for Peter through his internship. And it's going to be a heartbreaker for Peter to have to fight not only his mentor in Norman Osborn, but his other mentor in Dr. Connors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's going to be coerced into the fact that she can grow her arm back, much like Doc Connors was in the comics. And then she'll get turned into a rampaging lizard. And the thing about Dr. Connors is he is a good guy at heart. He's a both these characters, because they are separate characters, but they're good people at heart.
Yes.
The lizard is not Doc Connors. The lizard, yeah. The lizard is like the Hulk. It's a rampaging, single-minded beast that wants to turn the entirety of New York into lizards.
Yes.
Dude, I still can't. I love the Amazing Spider-Man, but like, really, that's your big villainous plot? Turn the entirety of New York into lizards?
I just keep thinking, because they brought it back for the Super Bowl, which was absolutely hilarious. I just keep thinking of, instead of lizards, everybody gets turned into puppy monkey baby.
God, I was watching the game at the bar, and Puppy Monkey Baby comes up on screen, and I'm like, oh my God, am I hallucinating right now? I know I've had
so funny.
I've had a copious amount of beverages, but I don't think I'm at the point where I'm hallucinating Puppy Monkey Baby.
Oh, so funny. I'm intrigued how Daredevil could potentially come back into this show.
Yeah.
I don't think you get Charlie Cox for one episode. He's too big of a name in the MCU to only have him for one episode. I'm very intrigued to see how they navigate bringing him back into the plot line, teaming up with Spider-Man to help fight all of these villains, and we finally get some sort of Daredevil Spider-Man team up in a Marvel television property.
Yep. That would be great.
What do you think Daredevil was looking for?
I agree with you on the fact that this is Norman trying to form the Sinister Six. Maybe not to defeat Spider-Man, but it's not for altruistic purposes. So I need to watch. I need these last two episodes to come out so that my theories can come to fruition. Because I genuinely couldn't tell you, especially, as a blind man, where's he getting his sources?
Right.
Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think Sinister Six comes into play, and we get some sort of team up. We're gonna get Nico with powers.
Yep. Well, that was
Daredevil.
That was teased.
Yes. We're gonna have Daredevil, Spider-Man. Who else? If it is a Sinister Six, who else is on Spider-Man's team? Because I think Daredevil will join him.
Yep.
I think Nico will obviously be part of it.
Yep.
Who else joins Spider-Man in this potential final battle?
Hobgoblin versus Green Goblin. Harry Osborn takes Spidey's side.
I could see it.
That's what I'm thinking. That is what I'm thinking. I mean, we saw Iron Man. Wouldn't it be something if Steve Rogers shows up, not as Captain America, but as Nomad,
Mm.
the man without a country? Considering that we now know he is on the run, and
Mm.
he is a New Yorker. He is a New Yorker.
Mm. Hmm. Fascinating stuff. Drop it in the comment section, your thoughts. As we move to episode 7, Scorpion Rising. Nico begins to ignore Peter at school, angered at him hiding his secret from her. Peter and Norman deduce Octavius is using gamma radiation
Not the gamma radiation.
for his technology and begin to trace it around the city to track his tech and locate him. Meanwhile, Harry takes Nico out for food in an attempt to get her to forgive Peter for his actions. The two begin to bond after he teaches her how to drive and engage in a street race against an unruly driver. Real romantic shit right there. Just true romance. While she still has a hard time forgiving Peter, Harry tells her Peter likely kept it a secret to protect her. She reconsiders as she apologizes to Harry for how she treated him before and calls him a friend. Pearl learns of Lonnie's involvement with the 110th Street gang and from Andre and confronts him at their hideout. As Lonnie continues to push her away, the gang is attacked by Gargan, now calling himself the Scorpion. Spider-Man rescues the two, and the gang evacuates as he battles Gargan. Norman, distracted with finding Octavius, provides minimal assistance in the fight, leading Peter to be impaled by a gamma-charged and enraged Gargan. Before he can be killed, Norman sends a glider to rescue Peter.
Yeah. This fight was brutal. Brutal. Peter
That was some of the most violence we've seen from a Marvel property, especially in animation.
Yeah.
But just in general, like, my boy got stabbed with a scorpion tail through his body.
Yeah. That was... Well, first, let's talk about what happened to that dude in the 110th Street game who is just dead. He's dead. He got stabbed right through the chest.
Oh, Miss Keisha, he's fucking dead.
Yeah, he didn't get stabbed on, like, the side, and, like, he's not Spider-Man. He doesn't have a bit of a healing factor, which Spider-Man does have a tiny healing factor. It's not, like, to the extent of Deadpool or Wolverine.
Right.
He heals faster than your average human. This dude took a fucking spear through the stomach. He's dead. He's straight up dead. I was not expecting death in my fun little Spider-Man cartoon, but I guess
Here we are.
Here we are.
Great episode, too. Like, just the build-up was so good.
You have this feeling in the pit of your stomach that something bad was going to happen. When Nico was ignoring Pete, everything's crumbling around him. He's starting to feel like he's alone in the world. Meanwhile, Nico and Harry are off having the time of their lives, just living it up, street racing against this other car, with Beetlejuice references and but what's that comedian's name? He's the dual flip guy.
Oh, Zach Cherry.
Zach Cherry, yeah. They're having a great time. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is literally getting the piss pummeled out of him. And, you know, Pearl finding out about what Lonnie's actually been up to. That's a great little bit of character development for both of them, because they've been the backbone of the show so far, I feel like. Like that subplot has a lot of life to it. And, you know, this is a thing that goes on in New York and any major city. People get caught up in the wrong kind of crowd, and people who aren't in that life get caught up in it. And we saw that firsthand when Pearl wants to go and help Lonnie, and now she's caught up in the attack of a supervillain.
Right.
So,
great episode.
Great episode.
Thoughts on the glider? Were you expecting it?
I don't know what I was expecting, but the glider was definitely part of what I was expecting. Like, I didn't know if it was gonna be some kinda, like, drone or something that would come to help Peter at the end there, because he wasn't gonna die. Those
Mhm.
Scorp You can suspend your disbelief all you want. The main character is not gonna die in episode 7 of a 10-episode season with 2 more seasons coming out.
Yeah.
Like, this is not Game of Thrones.
I
This
did
is
find it fascinating that they went that route to
Yeah,
kinda keep you on your toes, though.
it was great keeping you on your toes, but in the back of your head, you're just like, "Alright, how is Norman gonna help him out?" And the glider was it was staring me right in the face, and it didn't, like, hit me until I saw the
It was the
glider.
Green Goblin smacking you on the head.
Exactly, it was him walking up just,
"Hey, dickhead."
"Hey, dickhead, wake up." No, it was such an obvious choice, and I'm pissed at myself for not seeing it sooner, but, like, yeah, it made sense. And, that lays the foreplan that Norman is going to turn.
I do wanna kick back too when we saw the Avengers battling over the Sokovia Accords. Very fascinating that we got that iconic scene from the MCU Civil War and Spider-Man's not there,
Yeah, yeah.
which makes you wonder, like, did Iron Man's team have somebody else on their
And who could
side?
it be?
Which now my brain is like, was it Daredevil?
It could have been Daredevil. It could have been Daredevil, but
Another vigilante.
I don't think Daredevil would be, one of the guys to be on the side of the Sokovia Accords, though. That's the thing, because he is big on his secret identity. Um, and as a lawyer, he would wanna combat that through law.
Mhm.
Um,
Which makes you think, could he have been on Team Cap in this
he could have been
world?
on Team Cap in this.
Because in that still shot, we saw Captain America, we saw Iron Man, we saw Ant-Man.
Yeah.
I don't remember if we could see anybody else in that TV frame.
Now I'm trying to think who else could possibly be on, Iron Man's side. You never know. Captain Marvel could be on his side in this universe. You don't know if she's on
Because
Earth at this point.
in Civil War, I'm trying to remember the full-blown teams. Team Iron Man was Black Widow, Rhodey, Vision, Black Panther, Tony Stark. And then Team Cap was Cap, Bucky, Hawkeye, Wanda, Falcon, and Ant-Man, right?
Yeah,
Because then Spider-Man was also on Team Tony Stark.
yeah.
So I wonder, you know, just who could potentially have filled the role on Team Iron Man in that scenario.
Ooh, it's really beating me right now. I could not tell you.
Just trying to think of like heroes that would be okay, like with the Sokovia Accords.
There aren't many, you know?
Hmm.
Maybe they got someone from the Thunderbolts, because obviously Thaddeus Ross is a thing here.
Yeah.
Um, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you.
I'll have to think on that, and I'll bring that to the table next week if I think of anybody. But that's
Yeah.
something to definitely keep a thought on. Also, with all the gamma radiation being introduced, I'm also thinking that Amadeus Cho is going to show up at some point. He's going to get hit by this gamma, and that's how he turns into the Hulk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would love to see the, totally awesome Hulk show up in this because he's such a different Hulk than Bruce Banner.
I'm
Like, he's
also wondering if we're going to
he's
get like some form of like the Champions. I don't know if you
Ooh,
know that comic run or not. It
yeah,
is very entertaining. It is Miles Morales Spider-Man in the comic.
yeah.
It is
And then,
Amadeus Cho. It is Miss Marvel. It is
yeah,
Cyclops, and it is the plot line when Vision marries another like
yeah,
female version of Vision, and they have Vision kids.
Vision.
And who was the other person in that? I loved the Champions.
Was it one of Wanda's kids?
The 2016. Oh, it was
Was it
Nova. It was Kid
Nova,
Nova.
Nova, Nova. Yeah.
So, yeah, the original team. Let's see. List of champions members. So in 2016, which is kind of the most recent, it was Miss Marvel, Nova, and Spider-Man were the founding members. And then it was Amadeus chose Hulk / Brawn, however you want to refer to him as, Viv Vision, Cyclops, Joaquin Torres Falcon,
Yeah, which we're getting
Patriot,
in Captain America.
Rayshawn Lucas's Patriot, Red Locust, Riri Williams Ironheart, Wasp, which was Nadia Van Dyne, Snowguard, Bombshell, Pinpoint, Powerman, Dust, and Starling. And then you also got some reinforcement members, which included Red Dagger, Moon Girl, Silk, and some others. But I wonder if this could be something that sets up something with the champions, which would be a shit ton of fun.
Yeah, which, oh man. I want one of these last shots of the season too to be Miles Morales getting bit by another spider.
That would be fun. That would be fun. But yeah, this is what we do on the show. We theorize because Harrison and I are big comic nerds.
Yes.
So the
And
last
it's
episode of this run, Tangled Web, episode 8. Peter is shaken after his fight with Scorpion and is unsure if he can truly defeat him. Norman gives him an ultimatum to step up as Spider-Man or he will end their partnership. He breaks down in front of May with how stressful his life has been, and she relates it to her feelings after his Uncle Ben's death. After being tipped off by Octavius's whereabouts by Norman, Ross has Octavius arrested with some assistance from Iron Man. Very classic Iron Man suit too, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that was the eyes on that suit were
Which
so
also made me wonder, to our conversation earlier, about the timeline that this Spider-Man show is occurring, because we know the Fantastic Four live action is well earlier than the main MCU continuity.
Yeah.
Made me wonder if this is, kind of like 60s vibes almost, because it's that old school animation. You have the original Iron Man suit popping up. It made me wonder when I saw that. It got my brain turning a little bit if that was a similar timeline as well. The next day, Peter goes to Pearl's house to help with an assignment. Lonnie visits to inform her the 110th Street gang is going after Scorpion, and Pearl breaks up with him after he refuses to leave the gang. Thanks to a tip from one of Mila and Mikhail's associates, Dmitry Smederkov, the gang learns of Octavius's abandoned hideout and plan to use his tech to combat Scorpion. Peter discusses his dilemma with Norman, who believes the reason Scorpion beat him is because he's holding back, and that with great power comes great respect. After he leaves, Harry reveals to Peter he had Oscorp's scientists develop a new red and blue Spider-Man suit for him.
So, before we get into this, I just want to get on the with great power comes great respect. Because when he said with great power, I was like, oh boy, here comes the line. We heard it from Uncle Ben. We've heard it from Aunt May. Now we're going to hear it from Norman. Nope. That is a twist that is so in line with Norman Osborn's character. He doesn't care about responsibility. He cares about responsibility in the same sense that he cares about helping New York. He doesn't. He does it. He cares about it on a what's the word? On a surface level. Like, it's something that he wants people to believe he believes in. But no, he believes in commanding respect towards him and his name. That is what matters. And if you don't got respect, you don't have anything in his eyes. This is not a heroic mentor. This is a guy who's going on the path to supervillainy. And it's going to be interesting to see if in these final 2 episodes Peter changes that up, or like he talks to Aunt May and goes, well, Mr. Osborn told me that with great power comes great respect, and Aunt May goes, I don't know what he's talking about, but no, that's not it. With great power comes great responsibility. And then we start to see Spider-Man become Spider-Man. So
Yeah, I mean,
very exciting twist.
insane run of episodes.
Yeah,
I think 6, 7, and 8 were unbelievable.
yeah.
Which brings us to the final 2 episodes coming up next week that set up the finale, where Spider-Man's gonna have his red and blue traditional suit.
Thank goodness.
Episode 9 titled Hero or Menace. And episode 10, If This Be My Destiny. ...
Again, ripping straight from the comics. If This Be My Destiny, part of one of the most famous comic panels of all time. And then the first episode, Amazing Fantasy, the issue that Spider-Man was introduced in.
It is going to be a wild end to what has been an awesome run of this first season of the show. Very excited to see how they carry it and the directions they go. If you guys have thoughts on it, drop a comment in the YouTube comment section. We'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment in the Spotify comment section, or leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on this show, if you're enjoying it, how you've perceived it, or if you're just waiting for it to all drop at once and go through it all together as a 10-episode binge. But that will do it for our breakdowns here. Very excited for next week's final breakdown and just seeing where all of this takes us for season 2 and beyond. But without any further ado, I'm going to kick it back to myself and Christian, and we'll talk about whatever the heck is next up on our docket. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of StreamerSZN. Make sure you guys are following us, like I said at the top of the show, at StreamerSZN and StreamerSZN Pod on TikTok. Subscribe to the pod on Apple and Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review. And subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. That way you don't miss out on any of the good video content coming from this channel. And since we hit 1,000 subscribers, that means in the very near future, I will be starting season 1 of Game of Thrones for the people. I promise that. So that'll be on the docket very, very soon. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. But thanks for tuning in to another episode of StreamerSZN. We'll be back with a very fun episode next episode. But until then, I'm getting the heck up out of here. Shout out to Harrison. Shout out to Christian. And we'll see you next time. Peace.